Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to Connect 2019. My name is Frank Tückmantel, and together with my colleagues at EFI, we have the pleasure and the honor to deliver this event to you, and we want to make sure that you have a few very productive days with us here in Las Vegas, so that when you all leave on Friday, that you say that the time and money spent to join us here was worth your while. So thank you very, very much for joining, and before we kick the event officially off, I would like to speak for a moment about the new EFI CEO, Bill Muir. Bill Muir just joined us in October 2018 after having a successful career and being the COO at Jabil, a large company that he spent 25 years of his career at, and we are very proud to have him now as the CEO of EFI. So ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Bill Muir.
To keep my hands on myself.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hey, just a great...
Dust them off, put them back up on the shelf.
Well, good afternoon, everybody. This is nice and fun, huh? Intimate little crowd. Wonderful, wonderful. Everybody happen to catch football games this weekend on Sunday? Yeah? We got some folks, certainly some folks from the Northeast pretty happy about the way things turned out. Yeah, some folks not so happy about the way things turned out. Maybe one bad non-call that maybe affected one city pretty profoundly. I think it's pretty interesting. We could have ended up with a 41-year-old and a 40-year-old starting NFL quarterback playing in the Super Bowl, which for some of us who are over 40, that's kind of refreshing, you know? Anyway, so I'm absolutely thrilled to be here. Thrilled to be here in, many people say this is the most exciting city in the world, one of the most exciting cities certainly in the US. We're here in an absolutely phenomenal venue with a great group of customers and companies. So again, I'm absolutely thrilled to be here. Today, somewhat ironically enough, is my 99th day with the company. It's a really important day because at day 100, they've told me pretty clearly I have to start taking responsibility and accountability for things that happen. So I'm going to try and extend this day as long as I can, try and live it up as best I can. So you might see me at the table for quite a few hours later on this evening. So I think for many folks, the most precious commodity that we have is time. And I want to start by saying thank you. All of you have traveled, some from near, some from far, with some of the weather delays we've had across different parts of the world. I've heard of more than a few travel disruptions. So thanks for taking the time to spend with us over the course of the next couple days is certainly appreciated. Can I get maybe a show of hands? And I can see the crowd reasonably well. How many folks first time at Connect? All right, decent chunk of folks. Okay, me too, by the way. How many folks have been here 5 times or more? Pretty good group of folks. Yeah, all right. 10 times or more? Oh, those folks were ready to raise their hand. How about 20 times or more? No, we've had a 20. 20. All right, we got a couple of hands. All right, wonderful. Well, thank you. Thank you again for investing time, energy, and effort to be here with us today, the next couple of days. We're looking forward to a great deal of good, productive interaction, something hopefully that makes us collectively all better together. So this is what I think is a great visual representation of customers and companies around the room. Folks that have chosen to partner with us through the years, and again, folks that have chosen to invest their time and energy to be here for the course of the next couple of days. And one thing that's not lost on me in my kind of 3+ months of being with the company, I'm used to dealing with a lot of large-scale organizations, multinational companies, but it's not lost on me the number of companies that we deal with day in, day out that are second generation, third generation, fourth generation family businesses. And you know, lots of folks go to work at a company and it's their livelihood, it's their paycheck, it's how they support themselves or their family. You know, what's become really apparent to me is for many, many of you in the room, how much further it goes beyond that. It's not just your livelihood, it's in many ways your legacy. I've heard stories of companies that were formed before World War I, companies that have made it through 2 world wars and have kind of survived and thrived to be here today. So I just want to assure you that's not lost on me. It's something I take very, very seriously. It certainly imparts a humbling level of ownership on us to make sure we're showing up every single day in our best to make sure we're doing a good job for you. So an event of this magnitude at a venue as nice as this doesn't happen without great sponsors. So let me say a word of thanks to all of our sponsors who've kind of enabled the event in the next couple of days, with a special thanks to our platinum sponsors, Ricoh and Xerox. So the world's changing around us. It's changing at a really, really rapid rate. We spent a little bit of time talking about that and what that means. And I thought that maybe it'd be appropriate to start kind of 30 years ago. And it's not 100% arbitrary that we picked 30 years. But 30 years ago, this little company called EFI started. 30 years ago, the Microsoft suite for Windows debuted, and the World Wide Web kind of started parsing and aggregating the internet into a manner that's usable and functional for all of us. And I'd say in many, many ways, the world has never been the same since those 30 years, excuse me. So you fast forward another 10 years, and we get to 20 years ago, very first Connect 20 years ago. 20 years ago, there we go, very first Connect. 20 years ago, for those of you who can recall, in 1999, everybody thought come midnight of the 31st, the world was going to stop. All computers were going to come to a crashing halt. There was going to be some sort of zombie apocalypse that ended up happening as we stepped into January 1st of 2000. And somehow we all survived that. And this little company by the name of Google started in 1998. And it's hard to think about what life was like in some ways before Google. How we got anywhere, how we researched anything, how we knew anything, how we figured out any sort of trivia or anything else that had happened 20 years ago. A period of really substantial change. So you fast forward another 10 years, and if in 1999 we thought the world was going to end because of Y2K, in 98, 99, there was this premonition that, geez, from an economic perspective or so, we were certainly in for a really, really rough time. In 2007, Apple comes out with the first iPhone. Somewhere in the mid to late 2000s, social media really ramps up in a very, very substantial fashion. And all these things kind of happen, you know, more or less as we're kind of exiting the late 2000 decade into 2010. So a 30-year time stamp, a 20-year time stamp, a 10-year time stamp, which brings us to today. This world I think we're in where, you know, we're always connected. That picture of the entire family kind of staring down at their smartphones looks like a lot of family conversations and family dinners. It's a 100% social world. It's a 100% mobile world. The intersection of big data, cloud computing is making it so I think all of us in the room probably feel like we're better informed, we're better educated, we understand marketplaces much better than we ever did before. But at the same time, so does a customer. And so does a customer's customer. And downstream, I think we've all become more powerful consumers as we've had that level of computing power in our hands and had that level of connectivity in this always-on type world. And I'm a big believer in not only has there been a great deal of change over the course of the last 30 years, but change and technology continues to accelerate at a fairly dizzying speed. And hopefully we'll get the animation on this pretty well. No, we won't. Hopefully the printing press reads out pretty well here, all the way back in the 1400s, which I thought was kind of appropriate for this audience. We see the printing press make its mark. And then increasingly, subsequent levels of kind of breakthrough technology happen faster and faster and faster and faster, you know, as technology kind of continues to change at an increasingly exponential rate. And I think as much as change is a constant, from a technology perspective, the speed of change is only getting faster and faster and faster. And then as we were doing some preparation for Connect and kicking off presentations and what have you, I found this to be a really interesting slide. Technology continues to change at an exponential rate. Businesses or organizations change at nowhere near as fast of a rate. You end up with almost a bifurcation, if you will, of the rate of change between technology and organizations. And that challenge just grows over time. I thought this slide was appropriately prophetic, and I couldn't figure exactly when Jack Welch said this, but it says if the rate of change on the outside exceeds the rate of change on the inside, the end is near for the organization. And I think a lesson that all businesses at this point in time need to take. So here we sit in 2019 at Connect, and I want to start off with just a little video. I think our marketing folks did a phenomenal job with that. It really shows the level of innovation taking place across the company and how much of that innovation takes place in some level of partnership with so many of you across the room. And I hope as you walked in and as you walk out of this room, you take a moment to really kind of take in, when we talk about spectacular imagery and some of the things that we're doing together, to take in all the different ways and all the different markets in which that manifests itself. Because when we say print is everywhere, boy, it really is. I mean, it really is everywhere in so many different markets. So I thought this was a good slide. we talk about industries that are facing headwinds, industries that are impacted by technological change. Over the last 7 years or so, the print industry in total has grown at a 10% rate over the course of those 7 years. A substantial amount of growth in industry that I think at different points in time, folks have thought, geez, it's in some level of secular decline. So I think that's a real positive for our industry. The shape of that growth, though, continues to shift and continues to change from more traditional print work to increasingly more and more value-added services. As I spend time talking to customers, web-to-print type services, fulfillment services, shipping services, data that's used from a marketing standpoint to be much more effective. So that value-add piece of the pie of what folks are doing increasingly with their businesses becomes more and more significant over time. And the shift here is pretty apparent. You look at the last 12 years or so, look what's happened in the litho space over the course of 12 years. Shrunk by almost half. Same time, digital printing is nearly doubled. And value-added services have grown by 40%. So there are incredibly attractive growth avenues within our industry that for some of the areas that face secular headwinds, at the same time, some of the areas of the business have incredible room for continued growth. And apologies for that slide not appropriately showing up. I'm not sure what happened with the graphic there. There we go. Some of the slides with the graphics take a little time to build up. So I thought this is an incredibly good story. And I guess it's a story of maybe a tale of two cities. Commercial print establishments in the US, if you can read the numbers up here, they've gone from roughly over 30,000 in 2007, decreased to about 23,000 in 2018, right? So from an establishment standpoint, a lot of consolidation, a lot of M&A type activity, maybe some of the weaker competitors being pushed out of the industry. But relative to the productivity, the revenue, and the cascading profit stream that's coming out of those establishments, that's grown substantially over that same time horizon. And I think if you're a believer in the rate of change of technology, if you kind of take that as a premise and say, okay, that's going to continue to happen, and you fast forward and think, okay, well, how many establishments would we expect to see as we get out another 3 to 4 to 5 years or so? One could make an argument it's going to be less than 23. And that'll continue to consolidate appropriately. And really the onus I take out of that, the responsibility I take out of that is making sure that we're doing an exceptionally good job of making the folks in this audience, the folks that continue to bet on EFI, to be the winners in the industry as the industry continues to develop. So we've seen a lot of change over the course of the last 30 years. I think it's incredibly likely, again, if you continue to believe at this rate of exponential change, in the next 5 years, we'll see even more substantial change. In my responsibility, I think as CEO, there's a number of different responsibilities, but one of my prime responsibilities coming into the company is making sure that we're keeping the innovation machine, the innovation engine of this company alive and well and developing and producing for you, enabling your business to continue to thrive in the evolution takes place. And technology could be messy. Technology could be disruptive. Technology sometimes doesn't result in the best kind of user experience. And I thought this video kind of hit home.
Playing jazz.
Playing jazz.
Smoothie.
Making smoothie.
Calendar.
No meetings today. Remember, dentist at 9:30.
Fire off.
Fire off.
Open door.
Door open.
And we're gonna do one more.
Oh yeah. Open door.
Wrong voice command.
Open door.
Wrong voice command.
Open door.
Repeat that.
Open door.
I didn't understand that.
Hey, open door.
Play on the floor.
Sing on the floor.
이렇게 어렵고 어렵고
Wrong voice command.
So technology and digital innovation doesn't always play out exactly the way we think it's going to happen, right? Somehow, I guess we got to do a better job of really anticipating different use cases in such a way that we don't leave our customers stranded out in the rain, if you will. So besides our friend in the video, there's a lot of folks that have seen some fallout as digital transformation technology has continued to develop. And some of these, I think we touch and feel in different ways every single day. Probably many folks in the room are familiar with the Blockbuster story. Blockbuster had the opportunity probably a couple times in the 2000 timeframe as social media was coming up to buy Netflix for, at that point in time, what was reported to be maybe $50 million or so. Netflix is now valued at about $150 billion or so. So maybe a missed opportunity there to really capitalize on a technology shift. Folks don't spend as much time in taxi cabs these days as they used to. You spend a lot more time in Uber and Lyft, and that ends up being a much, much better user experience for many individuals, and in many ways, much more cost effective. And I think, at least in the Blockbuster case and the taxi case, certainly there's a technology shift that was missed, maybe even missed a couple different times. But there's also kind of a voice of a customer that was missed, and an adherence to a set level of infrastructure, a set way of working, a reluctance to kind of shift your business model to meet the customer where the customer wanted to be. And there's been a lot of winners. A lot of winners in kind of this digital transformation. A lot of winners that I see kind of sitting in the audience today. As I've spoken to folks and I've heard about how your business has grown, I've heard about folks pivoting their business in a couple of different ways. I've heard about folks kind of taking on new lines of business. And, when I think about this in the context of folks in the audience and our business, I don't think about this as we're going to have the next best Uber innovation between us or the next Netflix innovation between us or Amazon or what have you. But I think there's literally thousands of points of digital innovation that together we can materialize. Whether we're doing a better job of helping you understand what your ERP needs are for your business and how that matures. We talked about web to print, how we're enabling that business for you. As you're pursuing different areas of fulfillment, as you're trying to quote business more effectively, as you're trying to manage your internal costs more effectively to meet the needs of your customers. There are literally thousands of data points, thousands of digital innovations that I think we can bring together to the marketplace if we do a good job of understanding your business and we understand where it is you want to take your business, and we do a good job of meeting you there with solutions that we have. There's a couple places here where you'll see the word you or your capitalized, and that's really on purpose. The next couple of days are really about what we could be doing to do a better job taking care of you and your customers and helping meet you, again, where your customers need to be. And we talk about the transformation of different industries. Again, I said this earlier, but I really hope you take time as you're stepping out and you're walking around this room. The number of industries that print is touching in different ways, shape, or form is truly mind-boggling. And the number of ways that EFI is engaging in that, I think, is something really to be proud of. And it provides us an opportunity to bring some learnings from different marketplaces that might help shape how you think about your marketplace today. And that's an obligation we have to bring forward in our engagement with you. This is a nice graphical representation of how print touches every single thing kind of within the home environment. And again, how the print industry has continued to evolve. So folks ask me a lot, you spent 25 years with one company, what is it that drew you to EFI? And there's a number of different things, but I would say one of the main things, and a phrase I've used a lot in communication internally and explaining the company to folks outside the company is, I think the company's demonstrated incredible managerial courage. I think when we talk about kind of strategic pivots, the ability to go from a fiery business to a productivity software suite to industrial inkjet and a handful of acquisitions after that has demonstrated incredible incredible foresight, managerial courage to continue to grow the business across the print continuum, if you will. And that's really, really attractive. It's really attractive to be part of a company that has that level of courage, that level of appetite to take risk, and continue to innovate and meet the customer where the customer needs to be. But as I think about the continued evolution of the company, you know, innovation in and of itself isn't enough. One of the things I think we need to do a better job of is innovation and execution, right? And I don't say those as or, I say those emphatically as an and. We need to continue to do a very, very good job of keeping that EFI innovation engine alive and well, at the same time that we're doing a better job helping you execute for the needs of your end customer, helping us better understand what your end customer needs. And I say that increasingly when I'm speaking with our folks internally. We don't want to be the type of company that's selling you a printer or selling you a software package or selling you ink, as an example. We want to be in the business of working with you to sell solutions that your customers really need to be successful themselves. That's how we're hoping to continue to evolve the company. People ask me all the time, so you come in as CEO, what's your 100-day plan? What are you working on? What's really important to you? I always answer this the same way. There's two things that are really, really important to me and two things that I really worry about. And then there's a third that I kind of have to worry about. The two most important things I worry about all the time is culture and customers. And my belief, my strong belief is if we do those two things really, really well, the capital structure of the business, the capital that we need to continue to invest in the business will take care of itself. And for me, you know, culture means an employee experience that's truly exceptional, a work environment that folks are highly, highly engaged. Folks want to give their all to the enterprise because they believe they get that and then some in return, where employee dignity is really, it's honored and respected and valued. And in the lens of customer, for me what it means is customer obsession. It means about making that customer experience at every single point of interaction from the very, very first time we're talking to you about doing discovery work on a solution you might need to the point that we're doing an installation, whether that's a software package or whether it's industrial inkjet or what have you, and every subsequent support or service interaction we have with you, and a lot of points along the way. And for me, everyone in our organization touches that and has a level of ownership in that. And I believe strongly, and I tell folks all the time with strong conviction, if we do culture right, we do customer obsession right, capital kind of takes care of itself in the long run. One of my favorite, and I've got 3 to 4 quotes here, but one of my favorite quotes is from Peter Drucker, I consider to be one of the best minds in business over multiple generations. But culture eats strategy for breakfast. Hopefully, I'm not sure how visible it is, but you can see the Pac-Man says EFI culture under there. Does that show up there? Yeah. So we get culture right, and you get strategy kind of okay. I think culture continues to eat strategy for breakfast. And there's probably no better way that I know to convey what appropriate customer obsession feels like and should feel like from the eyes of a customer than how Jeff Bezos said it a handful of years ago. So I'll pause here for a second and let folks read that. So we talk about spectacular imagery. I thought there's probably not too many folks in the history of mankind that had a better sense as to what spectacular imagery meant than Michelangelo. And you typically don't think of Michelangelo in the context of business or enterprise or, you know, large-scale business transformations. But again, I found this quote to be very applicable from someone that maybe helped define what spectacular imagery looks like. So there's an opportunity and there's a risk. If the trend of innovation across all of technology continues as it has, continues to accelerate, there's businesses that end up being accelerated and there's business that end up, unfortunately, being made obsolete through the innovation of technology. I take our responsibility to be one of partnering with you to make sure that we continue to build on success that you've had over the course of the last handful of years and continue to position everyone in the audience for continued success. And we got one more video.
EFI has delivered exactly what they said they would, and then some. We have developed personal relationships through this venture. Everything we're doing is above and beyond what we anticipated. Speaking on behalf of Complete Design and Packaging, the Nozomi is a solution for us. It's our future.
Being an early adopter for EFI and ViewTech has been a huge advantage for us because our customer base is a lot of folks in the sportswear and kind of cutting edge industries.
EFI in our company toolbox is why we're able to be successful. If we didn't have that, we would be turning things around much slower and we wouldn't have the clientele that we have.
We've been growing together with EFI since 5 years now. With the installation of EFI products, we have more productivity in terms of the printings, in high quality printings, and in terms of the management of the company with the software.
About a year and a half ago, we purchased the digital storefront product from EFI. The one feature that we loved the most was the fact that you could actually integrate your sales with the production. So if somebody does come in and order a tent, or order 2 tents, or 2 banners, or whatever it may be, we'll generate a sales order, and then additionally, it will go. Those particular files will go directly to the Fire Pro server. RTL files will be built, be automatically sent over to the printer. As soon as the order comes through, we print it, and it's out the door.
To EFI started about 5 years ago. 4 years ago we bought the first Fabribu 340, cuts down the costs on waste as well as on ink due to the ink recovery system. We will have more business in because we can print more in the same time. We will have an extra market, boosting market for the more vivid colors that we print now, and I think that in terms of volume we can do a lot more.
So one of the biggest deciding factors in purchasing the productivity suite, we were looking for a true end-to-end solution. We needed various different components to complete what our vision was in our business. You could build your own technology. You can plug and play many different vendors, so to speak. We no longer have daily production meetings, whereas we used to stand in front of the production board every day and prioritize production job cards based on what needed to be accomplished that day.
So the stakes are pretty high, but together I think we can continue to inspire the world with spectacular imagery. I thank you again for being here. I thank you again for taking time with us over the course of the next couple of days. I'm looking forward to getting to meet and getting to know very many of you over the course of the week, and look forward to this being a wonderful connect. And before I leave, I'd like to say one thing. As I spend time preparing with customers and trying to get an understanding of what do they see, what do they gain out of Connect, what do they like about it, probably the most succinct, the most powerful message I heard was, every single time I come, every year I come, I learn something that concretely I can take away and it definitively makes my business better. So I'm hopeful that every single one of you over the course of the next 3 to 4 days that you're here will leave with at least one thing that substantially makes your business better. With that, I'm going to hand it back to our MC, Frank T. Look forward to a great rest of the week with you. Thank you.